everybody. This is Brian.
Jason.
And this is the Perfectly Screwed podcast. First of all, this is the second time we're actually recording this. I want you to know, because, again, I fucked up. Okay? I don't do it often. Well, I didn't fuck up. The program fucked up, so, okay. But Something fucked up. But I think we got it under control this time. Fucks up this time, I'm going to take this computer and I'm going to throw it against that fucking wall because it pisses me off.
Well, Christmas is coming up. Maybe the old lady will get you a new one.
Yeah, okay. With what money? Mine? So I'm going to give me a new one. All right. Yeah.
Well, if you're giving her enough money and she's saving like she should be.
This is new.
Well, that's true. I forgot.
Fuck, it's not the computer. It's the fucking program we're using, which is the best program to use. Well, and most of the time it doesn't fuck up. I mean,
it's not just our, it's our fault. Mostly yours.
Mostly mine.
But it's not all our fault. If we would get our listeners, to get the word out, give us more listeners.
You're damn right. Then I can upgrade. A little
extra cash.
I can upgrade.
Right.
Right. So if you like the podcast, please. I know you're out there because we keep getting more and more listeners. And if you like us, I want you to tell at least one person this week. That is your mission.
It is.
Make them listen to it. By the way, a guy at work that I work with said he listened to the Christmas special. Right? Because he'd been telling me all last week, I want to know what your podcast is so I can listen to the Christmas special. So I wrote it down. He listened to it over Thanksgiving, and his exact words were, that was fucking hilarious. He said, it was so fucking hilarious that not only did I listen to it once, he said, I listened to it twice, and then I had two other people listen to it, and they listened to it twice.
Well, yeah. And see, but the important thing is not just to listen, to hit some kind of like or...
Well, he downloaded it,
yeah.
So that right there is enough for me.
Right.
I mean, but yeah, he had other people, and he's like, dude, we were dying. He said we were rolling over Thanksgiving. He said that was the funniest shit he said I ever heard. He said it was fucking hilarious.
Funny,
he said it was fucking hilarious.
It's a good time.
He said there were parts that weren't as funny. He said, but as a whole, he said when you put it all together, he said it was fucking phenomenal. He said it was so funny. So before we get into what we're talking about today, I wanted to mention something about old Trump. And I want to tell you, I like Trump. I do. And I think he was a good president. I do. And I voted for him, as you know. I didn't vote for Biden. And I'm not a huge fan of Biden. But some of the things this motherfucker does is funny. If you don't know, he has a new kind of like Twitter kind of thing because he got banned from Twitter.
Right.
So he's got this website of his own, like Truth or something, where he writes whatever he wants because he owns it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So he went on there recently, and this is what he wrote. He said, the fully weaponized monster, Jack Smith, which is special counsel investigating him for the Mar-a-Lago classified documents.
Yeah.
He said he shouldn't be anywhere near the political persecution of Donald J. Trump. I did nothing wrong on January 6th and nothing with the Democrats fixed on the Democrats' hoax. That is, unless the 6 previous presidents also did something wrong. Now, this was his True Social platform. He wrote this. And then he says, so at that point, he kind of confesses to that, yeah, I did do it. Because he said, unless the other 6 presidents did something wrong.
Previous 6 under the bus, too.
Right. So he goes, then he continues to go, will you invade Bill and Hillary's home in search of 33,000 emails she deleted after receiving a subpoena from the U.S. Congress? When will you invade the other president's home in search of documents, which are voluminous, which they took with them, but not nearly as so openly and transparently as I did?
That's brilliant.
So what you're saying is, I took the documents. That's what you're saying. I took them, but so did they. So really,
what's brilliant about that is that he admitted it,
Yeah.
But in a context that could not be, you could not find him guilty in court.
No.
Because it's sarcasm.
Yeah. He said he did.
Clearly sarcasm.
He said he stole the shit. But he also said, when are you going to look at the other presidents that also stole shit? But first of all, there's no evidence that any other presidents ever stole documents.
Right.
Okay. And right there, he blatantly says, these documents that I didn't steal, I stole.
Right. Yeah,
right.
No,
and openly stole them.
No.
Right.
What's brilliant about it is, that it's his platform and he can write whatever he wants, but there's no fucking way he's the only one that thought that up.
Oh, no.
He's got a team of people.
Although I guarantee you his attorney right now is going, oh, the God, shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up. You're not making this any easier.
Right.
You're making it worse. Just stop talking. Please, for the love of God,
but his
quit.
attorney probably fucking likes the business.
He's getting paid, so he doesn't care one way or another, right?
Exactly.
See, that's the thing about attorneys. They act like they're on your side, but they're only on your side as long as you keep paying them.
Well, yeah.
They love you as long as you pay them. But, the moment you stop paying them, they don't give a shit. If you go to prison, it doesn't affect them one damn bit or another. They're going to go on the next client and say, fuck you, whatever, Give a shit.
This is your fucking check clear.
Right.
Right, I'm going to do my best, because I kind of know this fucking one. You know what I mean? Because get fucking real, bro.
Right.
Who in the goddamn world, besides maybe Rain Man, could memorize all the fucking law? Dude.
Oh, no, they look it up.
Voluminous.
Yeah, they look at voluminous. Trump's ego is voluminous.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good God.
No, that's great.
Oh,
it's
Jesus.
a great line. None of them's transparent as I have.
Yeah.
God, that's brilliant.
They all stole documents, motherfuckers.
Right.
It's just, I did it openly, so now you're going to persecute me, where they lied about it, so you're not going to persecute them. Motherfucker, really?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Because you broke the rules.
Right.
Everybody knows that you're allowed to take whatever you fucking want, as long as you keep your goddamn mouth shut.
That's like saying you get caught for shoplifting. And you're like, well, look, motherfucker, these 3 guys that just walked out of here, they were shoplifting too.
Right.
They just didn't do it where you could catch them. So you're telling me you're going to arrest me and not them?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
We saw you do it. We didn't see them 3 do it. So yeah, you're the one.
Pulled over for fucking doing 85, and you're like, that motherfucker was doing 95. Fucking you didn't get him. Well, no, because he was going too fucking fast, motherfucker.
Or we didn't see him doing it. Right.
It don't matter. Like you're saying it.
Right.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Right. If
I can't get both of you.
Right. And the thing is, okay, if you don't get caught, they're not going to nail you. But if you do it openly, of course they're going to nail your ass.
Right.
You can't that's like you shoplifting and sneaking it under your coat and getting out of the store. And me just carrying a giant TV on my shoulder right through the front door. Who do you think they're going to stop?
That's how Trump thinks, though, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to take these shit. I'm going to tell everybody I'm taking the shit. Because I want to stir up shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to let everybody know that all the other fucking presidents before me was taking shit too.
Yeah. Right. Oh, speaking of... No, oh, goodness. Here's something that actually relates to this. I didn't tell you before, and I'm going to tell you now, because I just thought about it. It's my Black Friday story. I didn't tell you about it. Okay, it was Black Friday, right? And I had stuff in the cart. In front of me is a black family. Okay? Now, there's a bunch of people obviously there. So the cops are, looking at Walmart. So the cops and the door greeter guy, they're looking at the receipts, right? So in front of me is a black family. I'm behind them. Next to me is this guy, okay? No items in his hand. No bags, no nothing. He's in a full-length trench coat down to basically his ankles, wearing red pajama bottoms, okay? The black couple goes through the little door there, and the guy goes right next to him. So they both go through the door at the same time. The alarm goes off. So the guy with the trench coat keeps on walking, walks right out the store. They stop the black family and ask for their receipt, went through their fucking shit, with a fine-tooth comb.
And the dude that stole the shit.
Oh, well, I'm
Right
guessing. I mean,
walked right out.
I'm guessing. Look, I don't know about you, but if I'm a cop or a security guard, okay, I'm looking at the guy with no bags, with the long trench coat, who looks like he's homeless walking through the door. I'm not looking at the black family.
Well, that's what,
dude.
Unless you're racist.
Yeah. Well, they looked at my receipt too right after that, but I hadn't went through the door yet, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're good." I walked past the black family; they're still looking at their cart, dude. They went out with me. He goes, "That was some bullshit." Yeah, dude, that was racist as hell.
Dude,
that was racist as
so
fuck.
smart by the dude in the trench coat.
Oh yeah, he walked right by him, and
So
beep, 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 thing went off like crazy.
Oh, he knew
and
exactly what he was doing.
And I was like, dude, obviously, the dude with no bags, wearing a trench down to his ankles. Come on now,
right?
Come on.
And he wasn't going to walk out with a white family.
No, I was like, oh my god,
right? Dude.
Yeah, I can't believe he got away with it. Really, I was like, that is
a perfect example of fucking racial profiling, dude. And it's done almost on an unconscious level.
Dude, it was insane, dude. I was like, I can't believe you didn't stop that guy. He has no bags in his hand. He was clearly in Walmart for a while, so he didn't buy anything. He's got a trench coat that goes down to his ankles, and he looks homeless. And he beeps when he goes out the door. I mean, God only knows what he smuggled out that store. That trench coat could have been filled with shit, dude.
He got all kinds of shit.
Yeah, he did. He just merrily walking down the road. I was like, oh my God, he got away with that one. But that's not what we're talking about today, not at all.
That's crazy.
No. We're going to talk about Bible conspiracies, actually. One main one, although I do want to bring up this other one first. Really, the second one isn't even really a conspiracy. It's actually fact. This is more of a conspiracy, the first one. The second one is actually more of a fact that this actually happened, which is going to be our main topic. But first I want to bring up Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And the first thing we want to bring up about Mary Magdalene, because since we did this episode before I started thinking about it, and I put it together in a better way in my head than the first time we did it. But the first thing we want to bring up is that Mary Magdalene wrote a book of the Bible that was later removed in the New Testament, was thrown out, as well as a few other books that were thrown out of the New Testament. But also Mary Magdalene, her name was changed in a lot of references in the Bible. If you go back and look, in the original Greek, they marked out Mary and wrote in Martha, okay? And they took Martha from a completely different text of Luke and moved it over into John when they were talking about the story of Lazarus. So a lot of scholars believe that Mary Magdalene was actually Lazarus' sister. And what they changed was they changed it from sister to sisters. They changed Mary to Martha, and then they added another sister named Maria who wasn't in the original text at all.
They're just adding people.
They just added people.
Gotcha.
Right. So they added to it, plus they took away Mary completely. And this was done because in the book of Philip, which was also taken out of the Bible, Philip said that there's an exchange. First of all, Mary Magdalene is referred to in the Gospel of Philip as koninos, a Greek term for companion and partner. And Philip said that she was Jesus' companion or partner. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how you translate that in life, but when I think about someone's companion or partner, I'm not just talking about their friend. I mean, they called the guys that hung out with Jesus his disciples. They never said they were his partners, right, his companions. They said disciples. Okay, right. They were partner, people who followed. Yeah, partner, and companion.
Wasn't it the Gospel of Philip that talked about the other disciples being jealous?
Oh, yeah. We're getting to that in just a moment.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
But when I think of companion or partner, I automatically assume wife or girlfriend. Wouldn't you? I mean, that's how you would... Right, partner. Right. That's how you'd refer to your significant other.
My girl.
My wife is my companion, my partner.
Whether
in
they're
this.
girlfriend, wife. Right. Like, I don't know what the terms of the relationship are that's been discussed between them. But if I'm the third party describing her as a partner or a companion, there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, there's definitely more than just a friendship in that.
Right.
So later on, in an exchange between Peter and Mary, Peter admits to her that the Savior loves you above all other women. It was actually a tense moment in the Scriptures that seemed to kind of portray the jealousy that the other apostles, Peter and them, had against Mary's relationship with Jesus. It was also mentioned in Philip that Jesus was seen kissing Mary often. Now, some say kissing was a custom then, but nowhere else does it say Jesus was walking around kissing everybody other than Mary. But he was kissing her often throughout the Bible. So, again, you take partner, companion, you take the fact that Peter says he loves you more than any other woman in the world, that the other disciples are jealous of Mary because of how much affection Jesus shows her, and then he's kissing her all the time. I mean, you put all that together,
the circumstantial evidence mounts up.
Yeah, it seems to point to the fact that there was a little more than a friendship going on between Mary and Jesus.
So then, Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, that's a famous painting. Everybody's seen it. So Jesus' right hand.
Yeah, they think it's Mary.
It's a lady.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a lady.
Yeah.
And it's because they're in groups of 3, 2 on each side. That represents the seasons, right? There's 3 months, 4 seasons, and the 12 disciples represent the 12 signs of the zodiac. So there has to be a female because of Virgo. But to the right hand of Jesus in the painting, and if you look how it's set up between Jesus and the lady to the right, like it's an M. It makes the M. You know what I'm saying? Almost like he knew something.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was common knowledge up until the point that the Catholic Church tried to bury all of this, that Mary and Jesus were married.
Right. And possibly had children.
Yes, very possibly. In fact, that's where Dan Brown... All of this is where Dan Brown got the inspiration for the Da Vinci Code.
Right.
Because, there is high possibility, and many researchers have said that, yes, not only were they married, but that Mary was with child when Jesus was crucified.
Right.
But see, there's a lot of reasons the Catholic Church especially wanted to bury this. They wanted to bury this, first of all, because, again, women were not allowed to have power back then. And to elevate Mary to a sainthood level, or show her as a very important person to who you're claiming is now God, or the Son of God, or equal to God, shows women in power. Catholic Church wasn't having that.
No.
Women got to be lower than men. And if you look at the Bible, throughout the Bible, it pretty much puts women below men.
Well,
women are always below.
It sneakily does it.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure. It's all in Genesis. But see, Eve was not Adam's first wife.
No.
Adam's first wife was named Lilith.
Right.
And it even says, because they were created from the dust of the ground at the same time. Right? At the same time. Man and woman created at the same time.
Right.
Man was not above woman, and woman was not going to let man be above her. And so they demonized Lilith.
Yes.
Right? And then make up Eve.
Right.
Who ironically now women, if there's any women out there, think about this. The Bible would then have you believe that you came from the rib of a man.
Not only that, but they also show Eve in an evil context. Eve's the first one to sin.
Of course.
Eve convinced,
of course,
talked Adam into it.
She's at fault.
And then if you look at the New Testament, if you go further in the Bible, it says the husband is the ruler of the house, and the woman basically must, I'm going to paraphrase, but the woman is subservient to the man.
100%.
Now, it does say the man is supposed to treat the woman as good as himself, but it says the woman has to listen to the man. He is the head of the household, and she will do what she's told.
Right. 100%.
It also says throughout the New Testament and the Old Testament, women are not allowed to be in power. They're not allowed to be preachers. They're not allowed to be head of the church.
And honest to God, it has not been until recently
Yes.
that women have started to gain power in society and in important positions in society. I mean, literally within the last 50, 60 years?
Well, it hasn't been until recently that people started waking up to a lot of religious bullshit. And I'm not just saying the Bible, religion in general.
Well, to me that's where the waking up has to start, because it's been the weapon of mind control for at least 2,000 years.
Correct.
You know,
it was a way for powerful men to control the masses.
And it's like I've said before, like, even as a little kid growing up, like going to school, we never went to church. So like, do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus? I never really even thought about it. You know what I'm saying? But you had to say yes.
Right.
You had to say yes. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that.
Right.
So that, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's telling. You know, because most people did go to church.
It was like George Carlin said, who was one of my favorite comedians. He said something funny in one of his stand-ups once, and he said, you know, when I was a kid, they would always ask me, you know, are you telling the truth? And he said, of course I was lying.
Right.
You know, to this little 12-year-old boy. He said, but okay, if you're telling the truth, swear to God. And he said, of course I'd swear to God. I didn't believe in God, so, you know, no problem. Yeah, I swear to God. He said, besides, what's God really going to do? Does God really care that I'm lying to Johnny, the 12-year-old boy, about something?
Right.
He said, is God going to come down and smote me? He said, I think God has much more to worry about than me lying to his 12-year-old boy. And he said, and then you'd say, oh, well, swear on your mother's grave. And George Carlin said, well, of course I'd swear on my mother's grave. First of all, my mother wasn't dead. She didn't have a grave. He said, secondly, did I really think that my mother's bloated, dead zombie corpse was going to come out of the grave because I'm lying to a 12-year-old boy?
Dude, Carlin's got some good
Carlin
shit.
was hilarious.
No, he's the best.
Now, do I believe there is a God and a creator? Of course I do. But do I believe what the Bible says? Nah, kind of, no.
Well,
I'm just going to put it out there. No, I don't.
Dude, the thing about the Bible that's so crazy is it's been shoved down everybody's goddamn throat as the Word of God.
Yeah, and yet it's the Word of men.
Meaning that everything that you're reading, that God spoke English.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, he spoke Greek.
Or whatever.
And Aramaic, because that's what the Bible's
Whatever
originally
the
written
fuck
in.
God was fucking writing it with. You know what I mean? He had his pencil out and shit.
Yeah.
Get fucking real. If
you
understand that it's just a story, that it's just a book, and that it's not literally real, but that it is giving a real message.
Yes, there is a real message there. And I'm not saying the message of Jesus was not one that people should take. But the message of Gandhi, the message of Martin Luther King Jr., the message of Mother Teresa, the message of all these extremely exceptional people is the same message. Love one another and don't hurt other people.
Right.
And it's the message that has been spent or twisted in religion all these years. And the problem is, it's not just the Christian religion either. In a lot of countries, even today, women have no rights, no power. Hell, Islamic countries, they can't even show more than an eyeball in some of them, or they're beheaded.
Well, and dude, the reason,
and all based on religion.
Right. The reason why, right, and the whole planet has been conquered in the name of Jesus.
No, in the name of God.
Yeah.
Different gods, but
it's been the Catholic Church, right? They're the ones that have got everything. They're the ones that invaded everything. They're who runs this country.
Oh yeah, the Roman Catholics.
100%.
And then the Protestants later on.
And the thing is, they know what we're saying.
Of course.
And what I say, that I think it's Matthew, I think it's 24. It even says, Jesus even says, like, take heed that no man deceive you. He's talking to his disciples, right?
Yes.
Jesus talking to 12 dudes, or 11 and a girl. Mm-hmm. Take heed that no man deceive you. He's not talking to us.
12 and a girl. Because if you look at Da Vinci's painting, actually, and you count the people in it, there's 12 guys, and then, like you said, there's someone sitting next to Jesus. And that's the 13th person in that painting,
there's not
plus
12,
Jesus.
12 guys.
Yeah, because Judas is off to the left. If you count them, there's 12. With Judas off to the side because Judas betrayed.
Well, and then Jesus makes 13.
Right, but there's 14.
Really?
Yeah. Mary is sitting right next to Jesus. Then there's 12, 6 on each side. Then Mary and Jesus right in the middle. There's actually 14 people in that painting. You got to look really close.
Right.
Because they're all kind of painted together. But yes, it's actually 14.
Right.
With Jesus in the middle of them.
Right. But he in that verse he says, take heed that no man deceive you. Many will come in my name, right? Meaning many will come as my representative, saying that I am Christ.
Right.
And will deceive many.
Yeah.
He didn't say, because that's what the church does. They read it to you in a way that says many are going to come claiming to be Jesus. But that's not what it says.
I think one of the most powerful statements Jesus ever uttered, and I forget exactly what book it's in, but I remember the phrase very well. And I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but he says, basically, you call me Lord, Lord, which Lord means master, which means you serve what he says. He said, but you don't do what I tell you to do.
Right.
He said, you say Lord, Lord, but I tell you to love everybody, and you don't.
Exactly.
I tell you not to judge people, and you don't. You still judge them. You're doing all these things that I'm telling you not to do, but you sit here and call me Lord, Lord. You're saying I'm your master, that you follow me to the ends of the earth. But you're doing all the things I've told you not to do.
Right. 100%.
You're persecuting people. You're judging people. You're throwing people under the bus. And all I'm telling you is not to do any of that.
Yep. There's another verse that says, you say you knew me, well, you never knew me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You never knew me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, people go to church and they think that's enough, man, because what Alan Watts said, it's because the church has institutionalized guilt as a virtue.
Mm-hmm.
You're a sinner. You're a sinner. From the moment you were born, you will never mount up to anything. You're a sinner. You'll always be a sinner. And there's no good in you. There's no good that dwelleth in you.
Well, see, the problem I've always had is this. Christians, and it's become worse in recent years, but it's always been bad. They think because they're Christians, they're better than other people.
Because they think they've been saved.
But even if you're saved, that, again, is not Jesus' message. If you look at the message that he said, he sat there with the lowest of the low. He went there with the sinners of the sinners. He went there with Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute. And he said, I am no better than any of you.
Right.
I am not. In fact, he told him not to even call him the Son of God. He's not the one who said he was the Son of God.
No. He never said he was the Son of God.
He said,
I am a son of God.
Well, this is like John asked him, hey, go to Jesus and ask him, is he the one? Jesus' response was, you just tell him everything I've told you and all the miracles you've seen me do. Don't tell him he never said, I'm the one that you're waiting for. I'm the Messiah. Never said it. He said, all I want you to do is go tell him everything I've done and everything you've seen. That's all you tell him. Right. You don't tell him I'm the Messiah. Right there he's saying, I'm not the one, man.
No.
I'm not the one you're waiting for because there is no one. All I am is a good person and you preach my message. That's all I want.
He was, that's, the gospel is the good news, and the good news was that Jesus was a son of God.
Yeah.
Right? A powerful son of God sent here to let you know that you are too.
So the question is, why is it that we and everybody's heard that Jesus is the Son of God and that Jesus professed to be the Son of God? Why is that? Well, first of all, we got to go back and talk about all the books that were left out of the Bible. Okay, let's start with this. First of all, National Geographic covered a few years ago that they found the Gospel of Judas, which was actually written in Egyptian. And in a language known as Coptic. Coptic, okay. It was a collection of another religion called Gnosticism. Mm-hmm. The Gnostics looked down on physical life and believed in two gods. The creator God in Genesis, but also a hidden unknown God that existed in the kingdom of light. But there are other books that were also removed from the Bible. Like, for instance, there are books of the Bible that are called special, quote-unquote, books of the Bible. Sirach, Wisdom, Tobit, First Maccabees, Second Maccabees, Judith, and additions to Daniel and Esther were all removed.
Enoch was removed.
Esdras, Second Esdras, the Book of Susanna, the Book of Mary Magdalene, the Book of Judith, Philip, the Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, Broch, the Apostle of Jeremiah, the Prayer of Azra, Bel and the Dragon, Prayer of Mansius, Book of Jubilees, Book of Enoch, and
that's a hell of a lot of books.
Yeah, it's a lot of books. That's all I'm saying, and that's the ones we know of, the ones they found.
And you mentioned Gnosticism, which comes from gnosis, mm-hmm. which literally means knowledge, and knowledge is power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for years upon years, I mean, like I said, we're talking 2,000 plus years. The church, was able. You have to ask yourself, why would they remove these books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're coming into an age of information, of knowledge, and it's readily available. And people are digging up all this shit. So in the palm of our hands now, of everybody's hands, they can read
mm-hmm.
for themselves these books that somebody, for some reason, kept out of the ultimate book used to control your mind. And I think that's another reason why people are waking up. Because if you read these books, I mean, there's some serious missing pieces going on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see,
they didn't leave them out for no fucking reason.
Some of them are still lost, like the Maccabees and stuff like that. You can find them, but a lot of them were included in what they call the Apocrypha.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the Book of Enoch, Tobit, Jubilees, all of those. And the reason a lot of these books were left out is because they told things that the Catholic Church did not want you to believe.
Right.
They didn't want them included. And the Protestant
They
Church...
couldn't have you knowing, because then they couldn't convince you that you're a fucking piece of shit.
And even better, the Protestant Church, which is the church that a lot of people believe in here in the United States, they took out even more. Because the Catholic Church still added Maccabees 1 and 2 in their Bible. They added Tobit. Okay? They have, and the Lutheran Church added the Apocrypha. And a lot of the books have been added back into the Catholic Bible. The Protestants still say, no way, we're not having any of those books. Because they don't want you to hear about Enoch and the Watchers and the fact that there were angels that came, well, not even angels, because they were watchers. They weren't angels. They were other beings that Enoch says came down to the earth, impregnated human women.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then created a race of giants. But the Protestant church doesn't want to talk about that. Or the fact that they were cast to the ends of the earth but weren't put in hell. Because the Protestant church wants it a clear cut, 100%. There's God, there's Satan, there's demons, there's Jesus. That's it. End of story. We're not talking about these watchers
and
that we can't define what they are.
And you can be...
And they're still on the earth.
You can be an evil piece of shit son of a bitch and do whatever fucking uncouth, debaucherous things you want to do. As long as you come in here on Sunday.
Yep.
As long as you pay your tithe and say you believe in Jesus, well, there's a place for you in heaven.
So the question is, how do we get the Bible that we have now? Because a lot of those books we were just mentioning was Old Testament books. And it's funny because they took some of the Old Testament and kept it. And some of it they said, no, we're not going to talk about it. Because again, they didn't want to talk about those books because they said things that were outside the norm. Also, the book of Enoch gives prophecy to Jesus, right? To the Messiah that Jesus did not fulfill. Okay? So, to keep Jesus as the Messiah, which he said he wasn't, never claimed to be,
right?
But to keep him as the quote-unquote Son of God, you can't have Enoch in the Bible. Because if you have the book of Enoch in the Bible, if you have the book of Jubilees in the Bible, which both prophesied things of Jesus that did not come to pass, okay, then, okay, now Jesus doesn't meet that strict, termination of the Son of God anymore. Right. Wait, if you add those books in, Jesus doesn't hit all the check marks. He only hits all the check marks if you take certain things out. So what we're going to do as a church is we're going to take these certain things out because they don't gel with the story we're trying to tell. Okay? They don't gel with the story we've came up with, so we can't have you hearing about this shit.
Right.
We can only have you hearing about the shit we want you to hear.
Right, and you can only read it from our authorized Bible. It's the only one that you're authorized to read.
Right. So what happened was, the original Bible, which include the Maccabees and Tobit and some of those, was canonized by the Catholic Church by King James, which is the King James Version of the Bible. Okay. Now, the King James Version of the Bible is not the Bible the Protestants read, though. It's actually technically not the Bible you will find on many shelves. Because the King James Version originally had Maccabees 1, Maccabees 2, Tobit 1. It had parts of Esther and Daniel that were then taken out. But those were canonized, which what it means is a bunch of guys got together, the Pope, King James, some bishops, they all got together and they said, these are the books that we're going to include in our religion, and these are the books we're not going to include. And all it means is this is authorized. This is what you can read if you want to be a Catholic. And if you don't want to be a Catholic, we're going to take the Knights Templar, and what we're going to do is we're going to put you on a giant cross up on a hill so everybody can watch you and see how sinful and hateful you are because you're not a Catholic. Right. That's what we're going to do. So either you believe exactly what we're telling you, these books, or we're going to put you on a big tree up on a hill and let you die.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You watch a few people die that way, guess what? I'm a Catholic.
Yeah, well,
I just became a Catholic.
Well, that's how
I believe whatever you want to tell me.
That's how they've conquered everyone.
Right.
That's what the Crusades and the Inquisition, you know what I mean? They just went into land and did exactly what you're saying.
Right. They went into Ireland.
You're going to believe in our canon.
Right.
And what we're teaching.
Right.
And if you don't, if you talk about, or if you even fucking think
about talking about anything
outside
of what we told you,
what we're telling you to think,
right, we will kill you.
Not only will they did. They would drag people out into the goddamn street, hang them up, and set them on fire.
Correct.
Right. Now, like I've said before, I don't know about you personally, but if I'm standing there and all of a sudden I hear this commotion, you know, and see everybody running to a certain scene, and all of a sudden you see somebody being drugged
and then set on fire,
and then strung up,
right,
set on fire. First question is why? Well, he didn't believe in the Catholic Church canon. You know, what do you believe in? I believe in the Catholic Church
canon. Damn right I do.
Jeez,
I'm a Catholic.
What? Whatever. What do you want me to believe?
Yeah. You give me what you need.
I believe in whatever I need to do to not be set on fire.
Well, that's the thing. They would go into other countries, like Ireland, for instance, Scotland. The Roman Catholic Church, who was housed in England at this time, would go into these other countries, and they would say, we're saving the souls of these evil sinners, these pagans.
Yeah.
And we're going to save their souls by doing this. Anyone who doesn't believe what we're telling them, we're going to kill.
Yeah.
And then we're going to rape their women.
The whole book of Deuteronomy is about this.
We're going to rape their women because God knows. That's what Jesus said. Go rape their women and kill anybody who doesn't believe what you're telling.
That's what they get.
I mean, that was the message I got.
They literally wrote down in their own book,
right,
the reasons why they think they're allowed to go into anywhere they want, right? Because they're the chosen people.
Right.
So they can go into whatever fucking land they want and take it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't give it to you, like you said, take it.
Right.
Take the fucking women, rape them, take some for wives if you want, whatever you want to do with them. Don't fucking matter to me.
Because you're saving their souls.
Right.
Right. That's what you're really doing. I mean, you're saving them. And if they refuse to be saved, we've got to murder them so they don't corrupt the rest of us. And then you fast forward, and Martin Luther, who formed the Protestant religion, he doesn't like what the Catholic Church is saying, so he's going to form his own religion, which is Protestants. Well, he's being persecuted. So, let's go to the New World, where we can practice our religion in peace and not get murdered. So he comes over here, and on his way over here, he decides, well, you know what, these Maccabee books and this and that, that's just confusing people more, so we're going to throw those out too. And then him and a bunch of guys got together, and they said, this is the book that the Protestants are going to believe. And if you don't believe this book, well, clearly you're of the devil, you're of Satan, and you're a witch. So what did they do? Well, they started the Salem witch trials and decided to burn all the evil witches that didn't believe in the Protestant religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also decided they were going to make it their mission to save the souls of the obvious heathens that already lived here that were not willing to give up their land to God's holy people.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do with them, we're going to kill them too, because we're trying to save their souls, and they just won't listen either.
Yeah, we won't. So, we ain't just going to kill them. We're going to goddamn celebrate it.
Right. We're going to commit
every fucking fourth Thursday in November.
You're damn right. And yeah, it just happened. Not only are we going to celebrate it, but the ones that do listen, we got to keep them separate too, because, you know, we can't have them corrupting, you know, God's chosen. Right. So we got to put them on land nobody else wants.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just going to commit genocide, because that's what, again, the message of Jesus was, let's kill everybody that doesn't believe what I believe.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
That's what, yeah, exactly.
So let's go back, and let's even talk about where all of this actually started. Okay? Now, the original book that Jesus preached out of was the Old Testament, including the Maccabees and Esther and Tobit and the book of Enoch and all those. He studied and preached out of all of this. There was no New Testament.
Right.
So the question is, where do we get the New Testament? And how did all of this start with the Roman Catholic Church and all of this? Because when you go back, it was a Jewish church. It was a Jewish religion. Jesus' disciples and Jesus' way of teaching was a sect of Judaism.
Yeah,
there was no such thing as Christianity.
Right.
He was a different type of Jew. It was a sect of Judaism. It was an offshoot of Judaism. Just like you've got today, you've got more liberal Jews, and you've got, the Jews that are very stoic and accurate and stick 100% to the Old Testament. Well, Jesus just had a different sect of Judaism. Just like you got Baptists and Lutherans and different sects of Protestant today that all believe different things. So Jesus believed a different sect of Judaism, but he still was Jewish. He believed in Judaism. He believed in the Old Testament. So, enter a guy named Saul. And the first thing we got to talk about when we talk about Saul is that Saul never met Jesus. Never once.
Okay.
In fact, Saul came around way after Jesus died. Okay, way after. So Jesus taught his religion, and his disciples believed that God would overthrow Rome, giving them freedom, and that he would prepare a new kingdom for, Jesus' followers on this earth.
Okay.
That was what Jesus taught. Well, that, of course, didn't really happen, but Jesus taught a message of unconditional love, acceptance for everybody, and non-judgmental acceptance of everybody. Jesus always said he wanted to bring a new age to the earth where everybody loved each other. He was almost like a hippie, if you want to be real about it. He was like a 1960s cultish kind of hippie. We love everybody. Everybody loves one another. We can't judge anybody. Let's all be peaceful and love. But that failed completely when the Romans killed him. But Jesus' followers believed that their rabbi, that Jesus had been raised from the dead. And they continued to meet in Jerusalem under the leadership of Jesus' brother James, which a lot of people don't know that James, Jesus' brother, took over the preaching duties, the leading of this church that Jesus had built with his disciples and with a lot of other people, actually, because they all followed Jesus and became part of this church. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty big church at this point, and it was just a sect of Judaism. And his brother James started teaching when Jesus died and kept the preaching going and teaching, we got to love everybody, no judgment, all of this. So, enter Saul of Tarsus. So he comes into this church and he sees how they're swaying everybody to this religion, and he sees the power that this church is gaining, and he starts coming up with an idea. So the first thing he does, he changes his name to Paul, and he professes that he's 100% in. He's 100% converted. He believes everything they believe. 100%, rah, rah, rah. Mm-hmm. So Paul works his way up through this church, learns all their teachings.
He's infiltrating them.
He's infiltrating, yes. He starts to see all of the teachings of Jesus. And this was actually said by Peter and James, who were actually disciples of Jesus, who actually walked with Jesus. And others, all the disciples, except for Judas, of course, because he was thrown out of the church when he ratted on Jesus. But Peter and James and the other disciples who had actually known Jesus were very suspicious of Saul, who called himself Paul. And they were suspicious and said that he seemed like one of those guys that was a yes man. Said whatever they wanted to hear, so he could get knowledge of Jesus' teaching.
I just want to put it out there right off the bat. Anybody coming in saying their name is Saul,
and then changing it to Paul,
and now saying, never mind, call me Paul, I'm a little suspicious of, just saying.
Right. And then he does everything to suck up to these guys.
Right.
And they're looking at him like, hey, this guy seems a little off to me. There's something going on. Okay? Why is he wanting to see all the Gospels of Jesus firsthand? Why does he want to read everything? You know, all these other people are just listening to us preach and teaching them. He's got to ever see everything firsthand. He's got to take all this information that we got, and he wants to see all the information firsthand. Why?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So Paul had a stroke of genius at this point. He realized that, hey, this is great and all, but it's only Hebrews or Jews that we're getting into this church. He saw that, hey, the Romans, though, they have aspirations. Okay?
Well, Paul's seeing dollar signs.
Right. Paul sees dollar signs. He sees a way to get into power.
Yeah.
And he sees that the Romans want to take over the Greek Isles. So how do you get the Greeks and the pagans who worship all these weird gods and the Jews on the same page and combine it all under one religion? So what Paul does is he took some pagan Greek philosophies that he found from Greek teachings that he had known, and he created his own religion away from Jesus' religion, away from this Judish sect that was going on. He took some Greek pagan philosophies, some of their religion. He took this Jewish religion that he now learned about. He weaved them together, and he came up with a new religion that he called Christianity.
Right.
Followers of Christ. And he did this because now you got the Greeks coming in, and they're saying, hey, this ain't so bad. This is kind of like what we preach.
Right.
And then you got the Jews going, well, you know what? He's right. This ain't so bad. It's kind of what we preach.
He's taking a hodgepodge.
Right. And the whole time, he's working behind the scenes with the Roman Empire to invent this new Roman Catholic Church. Why is it called Roman Catholic Church?
Right.
Because it was based off the Roman Empire.
And it's still ran today out of Rome.
Yes. Yes. So he began to preach that Jesus was actually God. He was the first one to say that Jesus was God and the Son of God.
That pedestalized him.
Yes, said he was God and he was the Son of God. Up until then, they said he was brought here by God to bring in a new kingdom. They never said he was God.
Right.
Paul was the first one to say he was God and the Son of God. So he also started that Jesus' death was linked to the Jewish system of sacrifice. Now, see, before this, if you wanted to have your sins forgiven, the Jews preached that you had to sacrifice an animal to God to have your sins forgiven.
Right.
Paul's the first one to bring it in. No, you ain't got to do that. All you got to do is believe in Jesus, because he's the ultimate sacrifice. He's the one that made him.
He shed his blood for you.
Right, and he's the one that invented that.
Mm-hmm.
Paul invented all of that, saying, look, I got an easier way. You don't have to go around killing animals every year. All you have to do is once say, I believe in Jesus, because he's the ultimate sacrifice. So he made the religion easier. It's easier to say, oh, Jesus, forgive me, than to go have to sacrifice a lamb every so often. So, all you had to do was believe. And he said, the old laws are obsolete, because Jesus bringing these new laws. So, after the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, the original Jewish church that Jesus started lost all authority. But this Gentile church that Paul started,
Gentiles means European.
Yes, they increased their influence. Then, one of Paul's very close disciples, somebody who studied under Paul all the time and loved Paul, he wrote the book of Acts. Immediately, Paul included that in the Bible.
Yeah.
Because, Then Paul, and the book of Acts gives Paul legendary status. It portrays him as a hero of the church, as a hero of Jesus, as the one who's bringing the good word. You can't believe these other whack jobs that actually followed Jesus around and saw what he did. No, you got to believe Paul. Paul's the only one.
Or Saul or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, whatever his name is now. So then he hired some people that were writers. And then he gathered scraps of information about Jesus' life, gave them to the writers, and they created the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which again, Paul immediately included in the Bible because he hired these guys to write it.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't going to do it
I mean,
himself.
sounds like the Word of God to me.
He had plenty of power by now.
Yeah.
I'm not writing it.
So,
Carpal tunnel.
Paul's theology already dominated the church, and it tainted all of the writers' perspective. And thus, Paul's religion finally won out over Jesus' religion. In short, Paul was a charlatan, an evangelistic huckster, who succeeded in twisting Jesus' message of love into something Jesus himself would have never recognized. It was Paul, not Jesus, who originated the Christianity of today. Okay, so Paul, this guy who was clearly a scam artist, is the one who started the Christian church.
Right.
He's the one who started the Roman Catholic Church with the backing of the Roman Empire.
Right.
Then he took the most influential Romans at the time and put them in places of power as the Pope, the bishops, the people who ran the church.
Yep.
And they backed Paul 100%. And they had the military behind them.
Yeah, they had the strongest military, and it's no different than the Americans today.
Right.
And they just go in and take whatever they want.
Correct. So
under the guise of the Pauline message.
Right. So when you're reading the Bible, what you got to realize is the whole New Testament was not written. And a lot of people don't know this. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John was never written by anybody that knew Jesus. Right. It was taken from scraps of Jesus' message, hodgepodged together with some Greek pagan philosophies, and Paul paid writers to write them.
Right.
So they were written by no one that not only knew Jesus, but they were written by people that had no knowledge of anything that was going on. In fact, it was written in direct contradiction to what Jesus and his actual disciples were preaching. So exactly. How much truth can you put in a book that was written by someone who A, didn't know the man, B, never met the man, and C, the people that did know him were suspect of him?
Right. Exactly.
How can you put your faith in that?
Well, here's some words from Paul. But be it so, I did not burden you. Nevertheless, being crafty, I caught you with guile.
Yeah.
That comes straight out of the...
that's Corinthians.
That's King James Bible. 2 Corinthians 12:16. He tells you right there in his own words.
Yeah. That I convinced you. I tricked you and convinced you of all of this shit. And I lied to you with guile.
Yeah, I didn't burden you.
No.
I'm not telling you what to believe or anything, just telling you that I was being crafty.
Yeah, and then I lied to you.
And I fucking tricked you.
Yeah, I tricked you, lied to you.
None of this shit's true. It's all complete bullshit. And we're about to take over the world.
Well, see, this is the thing. All of the New Testament are just fragments of Jesus' teachings. Pieces that he took, and he threw away what didn't gel with what he wanted.
Right.
In fact, the only book that was actually written in the New Testament by anybody that knew Jesus was James. Mm-hmm. All the other ones were letters and sermons from Paul himself that Paul said this happened. So the whole story of Jesus' life is a story invented by one man, and that was Paul.
Correct.
He came up with that whole story, and then he told these guys, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, this is what you're going to write down.
And then convinced everybody in the world that it wasn't a story, that it was the Word of God.
Well, it's very convincing when, again, if you don't believe it, you're murdering motherfuckers.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, I can't blame you.
Yeah, you can be very convincing when you got a sword to your throat.
Right.
Right. And then when you're taking parts of someone else's religion and saying, look, this is what I'm telling you, and it's almost like your religion. Why wouldn't you believe it?
Yeah. Well,
and they're like, you know what? He's right. It's
the
pretty
problem
close.
comes down to is that at some point, as human beings, the mass crowd has to stand up for what is right. So,
well, you got to think for yourself.
What anybody says. I mean, you're right. You have to think for yourself, and no matter what anybody says, dragging someone out in the street and setting them on fire is not the right thing to do. We probably all shouldn't just be letting it happen.
Right. And when you've got Jesus' message actually distorted and clearly watered down as it was by a guy who was just looking to gain power, how can you believe any of that? And if you can't believe that, how can you say any of it's true?
Right.
Because who knows how watered down and taken apart this message actually was.
Yeah, you have no idea.
I mean, if you look at it, that's why I believe in reincarnation. Because reincarnation, I can show you proof of this. I can't show you proof of that. In fact, that seems very watered down and highly skeptical to me. Whereas another part of it doesn't seem as skeptical. You know? So that's where you go from there. You just got to think for yourselves, and you've got to stop just accepting everything you've been spoon-fed your whole entire life.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Just because you've been told this by everybody your whole life, you can't just say, well, that's how it is. No. You got to think for yourself and do for yourself. And think, is this really truth? Or is this just another story that someone fed me?
You got to take responsibility and accountability for your own actions.
Correct.
And you have to understand that just saying that you believe in Jesus Christ is not going to excuse you.
No.
So
you also got to understand that there probably isn't a place called heaven.
Right.
Probably not.
And probably not a place where you're going to burn.
Right. Well, the Catholic Church themselves have admitted that hell's not real. It was a metaphor.
Of course.
Well, if it's a metaphor, then everything Paul said is a metaphor.
Of course it is.
And of course everything Paul said is complete bullshit because he didn't even know the person he was speaking about.
Right.
So how can you say he was born of a virgin and all this happened when you weren't there? You never even met this man, never even heard him.
Also, in a way, though, it's hard to blame Paul when he told you right out in front that he tricked you.
Yeah.
Caught you, motherfucker.
Yeah. Paul was basically the equivalent of a TV evangelist. That's what he was.
100%. Right.
And he was really good at it. One of the best speakers around.
And there's a lot of them still really good at it.
And he was backed with a lot of money. And that's what you get. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is I think this is episode 74, but I'm not going to, don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. It might be 75. But it's in the 70s.
We're up there.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.
Later.